This is episode number 38 with Jacob Spurr. Hello and welcome to the SOTA Process podcast. I'm your host, Tom Evans, and I'm a personal development and fitness fanatic with a passion for discovering the concepts and tools that help us to own our mind, body and soul, as well as the processes we can implement to make us state of the art. If you're looking to make some positive changes, find your purpose and have an impact, this is the show for you. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Now let's define our greatness. Hey legends, before we get into this episode, I have an exclusive offer for you as listeners of the SOTA Process podcast. My dear friend has started a graphic design business that goes by the name of Fluxium. Now, I have a really special connection with Fluxium, guys, as he was the one that designed my epic podcast art, and it is a truly amazing design. So, if you need anything done that involves graphic design, Fluxium is your man to get it done. Whatever your needs, logos, shirts, websites, podcast art, you name it, Fluxium can do it all. And right now, as listeners of this podcast, Fluxium has a very special offer for you guys. He is offering a 20% discount off your first 2 graphic design orders. All you need to do is mention the word SOTA in your inquiry and the discount is yours. I'm a massive fan of Fluxium's work, guys, and I would not go anywhere else for my graphic design needs. The designs are super affordable as well, so be sure to hit Fluxium up on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter at Fluxium. That's Fluxiem, or find the website at fluxium.com.au. Be sure to check it out, guys. Fluxium's work is truly state of the art. The only journey is the journey within. Rainer Maria Rilke. Hey legends, welcome back to the SOTA Process podcast. Now, I had the privilege of having Jacob Spurr come on the show for this episode. And this episode also features my housemate's dog too, FYI, because he was quite excited and he was making a lot of noise in this episode. So you'll probably, you might hear him panting and you'll definitely hear us telling him to get out of the way. But yeah, this was an episode I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And Spurry has an incredible story around fat loss and mental health and a few other things. And it's a story that's probably not too dissimilar to a lot of you out there. So it's very relatable. And that's why I think this episode is so very powerful, guys, because I can almost guarantee that at some point in your life, you've experienced something very similar to Jacob. Maybe not to the same extreme, but there's definitely a lot of things you could take away from this episode that will be similar to what you've experienced in your own life. Now, this episode was a real eye-opener, and it just proves that if you stick the course and trust the process, you will make it out the other side of your problems, whatever they are. Tough times don't discriminate, which means anyone, regardless of who you are, can get through the darkest of times. And remember, the night is always darkest before the dawn. Now, without further ado, let's get into this episode with the man himself, Jacob Spurr. Alright, so welcome back to the show, everyone. I've got a very special guest on today. I've got Jacob Spurr. So Spurry, thanks for coming on the show, mate.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Alright, so this is an interview I've wanted to do for a very long time because I think you've got a pretty incredible story that a lot of people would relate to as well. So first of all, let's start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and just a brief description of who is Jacob Spurr.
It's a great question, actually. So start out plain and simple. I'm just about to turn 23. Growing up in Western Australia my whole life, worked for the WACA for sort of 2 years full-time and 3-4 years part-time casual. So sort of went to SOTA from year 10 or year 11 to year 12, and then with the WACA affiliated through there. So sort of my formative years of 16 to 21 I was with the WACA, and then moved out to Kalgoorlie with the WACA to live and work out there. Between there and Esperance, lived there for 2 years. Come back, been playing sport and cricket my whole life, always been pretty active, but yeah, most recently sort of been through a few mental health issues and struggles personally, so that's something I've had to try and deal with over the past 2.5 years, but I feel like I'm on the right track now and moving forward. So yeah, it's a quick little recap.
Yeah, okay. So we'll start off with your weight loss journey. So I guess sort of 12 to 18 months ago, you probably weren't exactly where you wanted to be in terms of your weight. So first of all, when did you realise you needed to make a change, and what were the first steps you took towards making that change?
Yeah, I guess in terms of my weight, it's sort of a weird thing. Is when you're in the phase where you are carrying a few extra kilos, you don't feel like you're that big, and it sort of got to a stage where I was quite depressed and I wasn't active, I wasn't doing much, I was eating quite poorly, especially late night snacking.
Yeah.
And then I got to a stage one day where I weighed myself and I saw the scale. I always told myself I wouldn't go over 90. Saw the scales tick over to like 92, and I was like, oh boy. So I didn't weigh myself for a good 3 months after that because I was scared of the scale, didn't want to see what it was. And then, yeah, just sort of from there, I was probably gymming once a week, but I still wasn't too stable, so I wasn't able to commit to anything or really focus on myself too much. My self-care wasn't the best still, so I still wasn't weighing myself. And then, yeah, interestingly enough, in the lead up to a music festival, I sort of started being like, all right, I want to start getting a bit fitter, and I hung out with my sister's friends a lot, who they are elite swimmers, a few Olympians in there.
Wow.
So they've obviously got pretty good bodies and quite fit, and it always used to be funny, like we would hang out, and whether we were at someone's house or at a pool or a spa, they'd be like, all right, let's get in the pool, and I'm like, 6-pack, 8-pack, 8-pack, 6-pack, I'm like, I'll keep the shirt on today. So it was sort of those moments that'd be like, I wish I could be confident and take the shirt off, and then, yeah, in terms of the moment which sort of flicked a switch for me was when I started seeing the first little bit of results.
Okay.
I sort of started feeling better, and then got to the gym, and saw one day I got down to 86 kilos, and I was like, okay, that's 6-7 kilos lighter than I was.
Right.
We're on here, and then I just saw the effects that fitness and exercise had on my mental health as well. Through that journey, I started feeling a lot more better. Every time I exercised after the gym, I would feel like my day would be 100 times better. So
Yeah.
I think that feeling that I got once I exercised sort of kept me motivated along the way.
Awesome. And did you have sort of much like procrastination when you were first starting out, sort of thinking like, oh, I want to go, but I'm not really seeing the results, or sort of, yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, so for me, I was always really self-conscious at the gym. One, I was never sure if I was doing the right workouts, if my technique was right, and going to like Good Life, which is quite a commercial gym, there are quite heavy lifters there and quite
it's always a problem for people starting out,
yeah,
I think. Yeah,
100%. So I used to go at either 5 a.m. in the morning or go at like 11 o'clock at night when there was minimal people there. In which I did that for about a week to start off with. I was going, when I first got into it, I'd go 11 o'clock at night for like an hour, come back, then I'd wake up at 4, be at the gym by 5, did that for a week, got sick straight away just because I wasn't sleeping enough, my body wasn't used to it. And I was like, well, I can't do that anymore. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, just I used to go late at nights to try and just have the place a bit more quiet because I was never confident enough to do it during the day in that. But now I sort of get moving sort of midday, any time of the day. But the procrastination level, 100, like it's hard because you don't feel like you want to go, but trying to find that motivation to actually get up and go, and you've just got to sort of make yourself commit to it.
And do you use anything for motivation, or do you use anything to like get you in like a better state to go to the gym or to like amp yourself up or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, these days at the moment, I'd have like a coffee before I go to get a bit better energy, but I also have a tendency to blast some music, but not the typical gym music that you would think. It's more Taylor Swift sing-along.
Okay.
And I've actually got we had a random microphone disconnected from everything floating around, but like just to get some energy, if I'm feeling really tired, I'll like play some music in my room and I'll pretend to like perform, but like it just gets me up and about and amped, and gets me just moving. And then just trying to get up and active and find that energy, but just remember the process works is the biggest thing for me. Brings it back, and that's been a major thing for my whole sort of last 6 to 8 months. I've realised that, if you do commit to stuff, the process takes care of itself, and you may not feel it that day, but if you keep it that day, 2 weeks down the line, if you've kept at it, the process starts to make things happen. Yeah.
Okay. And then emotionally and mentally, how does looking on the scales and seeing a number you don't like affect you?
It's quite disturbing mentally, because it sort of gets to the stage where you realise you're the only one that's made that happen. It's not like you can blame someone else for the amount you weigh, it's on you. So when you get to sort of an amount that you're not happy with, it does take its toll on you, and it just makes you feel, sort of a lot of self-doubt, a lot of almost, I guess I was feeling a bit of worthlessness along the way as well. And it just all correlates with everything to do with mental health in that state as well. But when you see that number, it can go one way or the other. It depends what state you're in. If you see it, it can motivate you to go hard and try and make it better, or it can be quite a distressing sign and can put you back a few steps as well. But even now, since I've sort of lost some weight, I weigh myself sort of once a week or so, and even when I see it go up up a little bit, my first question is it muscle, is it fat?
Right,
My mental, I still need to try and balance that, and be okay with, putting on a couple and understand you need to be in a caloric surplus to put on muscle and all that. So I'm still trying to learn everything to do with that. But in terms of, the mental side around seeing a number you're not happy with, it does take a bit to try and get used to.
Yeah. No, you look like you've done a pretty good job so far.
Cheers.
So I guess on your weight loss journey, what would you say have been the best parts and what have been the hardest and most difficult parts?
We'll start with the best parts because they're the fun parts. I think just seeing the results and the effect that it has on my mental health, mentally. So I think that's been a major player in it. I keep going back to that and thinking about even just going through my camera roll on my phone and seeing a photo or a video from 10 months ago, 8 months ago.
Yeah, right. Just the transformations and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. I made a few videos that I just on private on YouTube about, I think it was around this time last year, and I looked at them the other day and it was just it was insane. I was whoa, and that's what I came back to earlier. You don't realise, when I was in that state, I didn't realise I was like that. But then I look back at it and I'm like, that's such a big change. So I think seeing the changes is a massive positive, but the effects that it has on you mentally and just how much happier you are. And I've had a lot of them, my friends, and have sort of commented, you look a lot happier, you look like you're doing well compared to, 8 months ago, where I was how are you doing? It just radiates a lot more energy, you just feel better about yourself. And that's the big thing. I try and get to the gym now as sort of as early in the day as I can to try and get those endorphins pumping and make myself feel a lot better throughout the day. And I've just been, I think seeing the results is a major thing as well. I have an album of each few weeks I'll take a photo, and I've just been able to see the results and the constant changes, which is awesome. In terms of the struggles, I guess being at home has been quite a struggle back with mum and dad, and from a family, we've still got 2 sisters and me at home, and my sister was going through exams and stuff, so there was lots of snacks and lots of
lots
chocolate.
of temptation.
Yeah, so
especially if everyone else is eating it and you're like, it's hard to say no.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when I first started, Dad used to actually have to hide the Dorito packets.
Right.
Because he'll buy them because my sisters like to eat them. But like,
Yeah.
I would not sleep and at like 1 a.m. I'd whip out a packet and just start smashing it. So Dad ended up hiding them from me, and I'm like, where are they? And then my sisters were eating them, and I'm like, what? So he used to hide a bit of food, and it worked out well. And now, you know, they're just in the pantry, but I don't touch them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard at home when you know Mum cooks dinner some nights, and it's just something that you're like, oh, should I really be eating this? But I think there's also balance in that. Like, I've come to understand you've got to have balance in your
100%.
food and in your life, and be willing to have a fun night and eat what you want to eat.
That's probably more the key to sustainability anyway, is that
100%.
Yeah, being able to have a cheat meal every now and again or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was really key on trying to do was make sure I kept my calorie intake quite high, because I was doing some videos for a gym, and I sort of was editing a seminar on nutrition, and she really stressed about, you know, the metabolic adaptation and everything, and that stuck with me. So it was because I just started trying to lose weight, and I was like not eating brekkie and minimal lunch, and I was eating a little bit less to try and do it. And then I watched that, and I was editing that, and I was like, whoa. So I started eating more food than I ever have.
Yeah.
And I was losing weight, and I was just eating more protein, and it's really interesting to find these days. Yeah.
I think you've slightly touched on it before, but how much of an impact has exercise had on your mental health?
Yeah, massive. Even to the fact where even currently, if I'm feeling down, I'll go to the gym. I'll go for a run, and it just takes, whether it's an hour and a half out of my day where I can just focus on the gym, whether I sort of put everything that's I might be worrying about or anxious about, that can be put behind, and I just have that hour to myself, and then I come out of the gym and the exercise, and I can almost reset and refresh and look at things from a new angle, rather than, you know, staying in that anxious state and things just building up. It's a way to release a bit of tension, and you come out and look at it with a fresh mind. And then in the long run, I guess the biggest thing is just self-happiness and being happy with what you're doing and what you look like, and
seeing results probably helps as well.
Yeah, 100%. So it ticks so many boxes. It's hard to sort of put it into one, but I think exercise has been the biggest thing for my mental health in terms of getting back onto the right track. Yeah,
well, I think one of my favourite quotes of all time is from Tony Robbins, and his is like, he said, progress equals happiness. And I think that's so true, like, especially on your journey and stuff I've been through and everyone else. Like, if you're progressing, if you're getting better, then that is literally the key to happiness. 100%. And you can't not be happy if you're doing that, I reckon.
100%. If you're progressing towards where you want to be, it's going to tick a lot of boxes.
Yeah. So this one's a bit of a funny one. So in your YouTube video that I was watching the other day, you talked about you went to the Groove in the Moo down south, and you were speaking to a girl, and she sort of motivated you to make a couple of changes. So what's the story behind this one?
Yeah, interesting story, actually. I hope she doesn't listen to this. She'll be able to pick who she is by quite easily. So I went to the Groove in the Moo down south, and it was quite interesting. We sort of just met in the mosh, and I was kind of pumped because it was it's an actual meet story. It wasn't just met on Tinder or whatever. I was like, she's so cool. And she said something to me which stuck with me, which was because it was really squishy.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's so squishy. She's like, yeah, but it's all part of the event. Just enjoy it. And I was like she's like, stay in the moment. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
And then we caught up after that for once, and it's interesting. She's quite attractive and just a really good human. I found her really quite impressive, and in that it sort of pushed my mind. And that was when I was still probably 88 kilos, 90 kilos, and that sort of pushed my mind. I was like I need to be better.
Yeah.
And that's how my mind worked. It was I need to be better if I want to have a chance with you. I need to make myself a better person. So that's when I started probably going to the gym from twice a week to 4 or 5 times a week, throughout that little period there. And then nothing eventuated with her, but that's where I found that love for the gym and the routine, and I've stuck with that since then. So that probably pushed me. That was the push I needed to get over the edge.
Right.
Which is a weird way of happening, and it obviously happens differently for everyone. But I guess, that little thing of me trying to improve myself, thinking I need need to be better. To be with her, that was my little push over the edge and got me into the routine.
Oh, nice. And then, you spoke about how at 19, I think it was, you moved out of home to Kalgoorlie, did you say?
Yeah.
Talk to me about this and how this affected you mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, so 19, moved out to, in between Esperance and Cal. So I was living in Esperance by myself and Cal was by myself for the first 6 months. And then a mate from cricket ended up moving out as well to do teaching out there. So I lived with him for a little bit at the end. But I guess at the time, I really took it as an opportunity to get out and grow, and I thought I could take on the world at that stage, 19 years old. But I guess looking back at it now, you do understand the effects it might have had on me, and I think I was isolated out there in a manner that my job didn't allow me to, be a teacher at a school and be communicating with other 20-year-old teachers in my school and having a group out there. Like, I was working with 50-year-old volunteers and living by myself, driving 4 hours between Esperance and Cal 3 times a week, driving to Perth once every few weeks. And those long car trips give you a lot of time to think.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you had a lot of time to yourself to think, and I used to try and, sing and karaoke a lot in the car to take up the time, but you do have times where you think. And I remember there was one day where I had a bad week and I just wasn't feeling well, and I had to drive from Esperance to Cal, and I got pulled over. I stopped off for a drink and I got pulled over for speeding because I was just like, I want to get to Cal as quick as I can. And the police officer was like, oh, like going at this speed, like if Amy hit your car, it would kill you. And I had to hold myself because I was almost like, I hope so.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I was going through quite a bad patch there. Yeah. And that just shows you where my mental state was. So I had to hold myself from saying that. But I think just that isolation out there and seeing, it was almost like the grass is greener on the other side. It was everything's happening in Perth. All my friends are in Perth. Everything's in Perth. And I was out there just by myself, which was a chance to grow, but it was also ended up being quite difficult for me mentally,
Yeah. And so you talked about being a little bit lost as well in that YouTube video you made. So how did you what were the first steps you took to sort of find some direction and get yourself back on track?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough. I have a few really good people around me who sort of understand what I've been going through, and the few that I'm happy to talk to, my sister being one of them, and she's been really helpful with me along the journey, helping me sort of stay on track, and she'll do it in a way that she wouldn't, come and have like a deep heart-to-heart with me, but we always had that relationship where we'll pull each other up in a fun but, pull your shit together way.
Yeah.
So she's been a really big help, and a few other people have been sort of just there all along, and I think getting back on track, I did it in a way that I just had to find myself again, because I had quite a good relationship with my grandfather, and he passed away sort of 10 years ago, but he's always one I come back to because he was really big on values and respect. And it sort of got to a stage where Dad even said to me, he's like, and I think I just started seeing my psych or something, and she was just like, you need to get back to like, what are your values? What are your core values? And I was like, I don't know anymore. Whereas growing up, I always had really good values, and it sort of got to the stage where I was just like, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I want to be as a person in full. So
Dogs just slobbered all over us.
It got to the stage where I sort of had to take a step back, and I always tried to model myself on my grandpa, just because of the person he was. So I sort of just took a step back and thought, what did I used to be like? Taking it back to year 7, year 8. What were my values then? What were like grandpa's values? And I sort of had a look at it, and I sort of put it down to the core one of respect, being a good person, just the caringness for everyone and sort of
Zoo.
and yeah, just the honesty, and I think the respect. The respect is a major one. That was one thing I always looked up to him. Like everyone respected him and respected how he went about stuff, and I just had to try and find what I stood for again. So it was a matter of I even got a little notebook and just wrote down a few things that I want to live for, live by, and I feel like that sort of took me back into the right path.
Yeah. And you spoke about how you sort of isolated yourself a little bit during your journey as well, probably, I guess, to eliminate some outside influence and focus deeply on your goals and that sort of thing. But you also noted that you probably took this to like the extreme end of the spectrum. So if you had your time again, would you do it differently, and would you recommend your approach to other people?
I wouldn't say I would recommend it in consideration with others. In the way that I did it because I was really bad at saying no, I guess.
Yeah.
And, if someone was like, let's go out, let's get drunk tonight, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. And alcohol, mental health, overweight doesn't mix. So it got to a stage where, I'd feel like I physically shut off my phone for a bit and didn't reply to everyone. And then I then got back on my phone, but I still just isolated myself. I didn't go out for like a drink or get drunk for a good 4 months purely because I didn't reply to anyone. I didn't do anything. And in that state, it was good because I started seeing the results myself. So because I had isolated myself, and it was sort of the work hard in silence sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of I recommend 100% take time for yourself, understand what you need to do, what works best for you. But in terms of isolating yourself away from everyone, I probably took it to the extreme where I literally cut everyone off for 4 months, and I have suffered the consequences of that. I've lost quite a lot of friends through that, but again, the good people have also stuck around.
Yeah,
so
as they will.
It does also show a little bit there. And the biggest thing is like time will tell, and that's the biggest thing. And if you do need to pull yourself away for a couple months, a few months is nothing in the big grand scheme of thing. If you have to pull yourself away for 3 months to sort yourself out and get yourself started on that path, it's going to lead to a whole lot more happiness than you suffering in silence and doing nothing and still pretending with that smile on your face. You're better off. But yeah, you've got to make sure you have those key people around you, and make sure you show them the amount of thanks, which I need to start doing now. For them just sticking around and helping me through that tough time, because it's not a fun little period.
Yeah, awesome. And so what is your self-talk like now compared to what it used to be? And do you sort of have any triggers for, first of all, recognising negative thought patterns, and then also triggers for getting yourself back onto a positive thought pattern?
Yeah, so my self-talk got really good for a bit. I was seeing the results. I was hitting goals, ticking boxes. Work was picking up.
Yeah.
And then I sort of got to a stage where mentally I had ticked the boxes, lost the weight, was doing this, doing that, and in my head I was like, "What's next?" Like I've hit everything, but I still don't feel like I'm good enough. Yeah. And that's one thing, is the unrealistic expectations that I have of myself, which was always a little hard, but. So that is one thing I need to monitor with myself and my self-talk, is just understanding I am ticking boxes, I am doing things well. I am quite hard on myself still when I do things, when I feel like I should be doing things better. But then it's a matter of me having to come back to it and almost understanding the biggest thing. The biggest thing is the process. Yeah. And that's one thing that I keep coming back to when I am feeling down. It is all about the process. If my self-talk's negative, I understand that that's part of it as well. I might have an off day where I'm not going to feel the best, but that's part of the process. The next day I might feel better. So it's just accepting that those moments and those days happen, and not dwelling on it, not being, I'm down, this is it, I'm done. Accepting that, I might be feeling a little bit off, but, it'll switch around soon. I'll start feeling better. If I get to the gym, that might help. It's just trying to turn turn the negatives into ways that I can still be productive.
Right.
And then being productive allows my self-talk to be better, because you can say you've ticked something off, you've done something. And it's just, that process which I keep coming back to.
Yeah. And so you're pretty into like film and content creating and that sort of thing. So what does the future look like for Jacob Spurr in that sense?
Oh, Hollywood, no. So yeah, I'd love to go as far as I can with film and whatnot. So currently just working with cricket mentoring, and heading off to India and the UK next year with them to do some filming. So that'll be quite awesome. I've got some few things planned. Still doing my own sort of freelance filming stuff. So I've got a few companies that I do some work for with them. But I love the creativity of it all.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Like, I just love the aspect of thinking about something and then bringing it to life is something I love. And that's what keeps me going with it all. You got to do those corporate jobs where you're just doing the boring videos, but the videos where you get to be creative and
express yourself, basically.
100%, and that's the things that I love. When you do a video and you want to get home and edit it as quick as you can and get it up, and like the other night, I was just before I went to bed, I was just listening to a song and I was like, I feel like making a video to this song, so I literally just filmed a little video edit and edited it up in 45 minutes to an hour. But I enjoyed that so much because it was just creativity, and I've done nothing with it, but it's just that aspect of creating videos, and I'd love to do that for as long as I can, and for as many people as I can, and help share stories. Yeah.
And who's had the biggest influence on your life?
My life, that's a big question.
And the best advice they've ever given you as well.
Best advice. I'd have to say the biggest influence would have to be my grandfather. Yeah. Like, we'd never had big, deep, heart-to-heart chats or anything. Obviously, I was 12 or so when he passed away, but
more just his actions and following his lead.
Yeah. So how he lived, how he went about things, and even the things you hear about him after he's gone, like, his legacy still lives on so hard, so much, and I strive to be someone half the person he was, in my own way. So, and he's one person that I always come back to when I am feeling down is that, and I always will look up to the sky and look at the star or something and be like, he's still watching over me, and come back to all that. So he's probably been one of the biggest influential people in my life through that. The best piece of advice.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
That is a tough one. I've had a few, but I think it is just about, in terms of like your mental health and everything, it's really about understanding the things that you're doing.
Right.
And understanding what's happening in the moment. So if you are, like, you need to be able to, I'm not very good at it, but you need to be able to tell yourself you're doing a good job. And that's a big thing that I need to continue to work on, and not be so hard on yourself. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't put it down to one single quote, this is it, but I think everything that I've learned over the last year, over the last 6 months, has been all about trusting the process. And if you have that process, you have that end goal, you have your steps of how you want to get there. Even if you don't have your steps of how you want to get there, if you start doing the things towards that goal, it works. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is that commitment. It might not work in a week, it might not work in 6 months, it might not work in a year, but if you keep to it, the process, it works, and the results may come to what you expected, or more than what you expected, in different ways, which is something big fun now. Yeah,
no, I love that. So before I get into my final questions, where can people find you online?
So I've got Instagram's just @_Jacob Spurr. YouTube's all linked in there as well, and that's probably my hangout, mainly on Instagram these days.
Yeah, I'll chuck the links in the show notes. Into the final question. So, first of all, the SOTA slogan, or mantra as you could call it, is define your greatness. So to you, what is your definition of greatness?
Greatness is being happy with your own success, is not trying to achieve what others' version of success is. Everyone has their own idea of what success is. Success could be you're living a 9-to-5 job, making $45,000 a year with 3 kids, and you're super happy. Whereas someone else's success could be, I need to make $200,000 a year, or whatever. or someone else's success could be, I ate lunch today. So I think having your own version of success is the idea of greatness, and understanding that everyone's different, and whatever your version of success is that's what you should measure yourself with, not off other people.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that answer. So if you could give someone your top 3 pieces of advice, or your 3 truths, so 3 things you know to be true about the world, what would they be?
Taylor Swift is no. One, my number one, 100% trust the process. That's my biggest advice, and what I live by at the moment. Just keep backing yourself in, trust the process. Two, enjoy it. I think time goes really quickly, and that's one thing I've learned as well. Like, there was probably a moment throughout the last 6 months where it was like almost a flick of a switch, and yet it was 3 months, 4 months work.
I didn't take any time to step back and just enjoy the process, basically.
100%. You got to, and that's the thing. You got to enjoy the process, enjoy the ride, and understand that it is a process, and you got to trust it.
Yeah. All links together.
Correct. It all comes back. 3, probably just surround yourself with people who you're going to be most happiest with.
I like that. That's good.
Really make sure you've got that group that you feel comfortable with, you're happy with, and you don't feel pressure or you have to be someone else around. Yeah.
All right, and lastly, to finish, I reached out to have you on the podcast because I believe who you are and what you have done aligns with being state of the art. So, in your opinion, what makes you state of the art, and why is that important?
I think just the way that I've now come to understand how everything happens and works, and the steps along the way of trying to reach that state of the art, and live the way that you want to live, I think is key in that. And I think just understanding the day-to-day challenges and achievements and excitements and worries and everything, it all comes with a package, and it's an exciting package, and everyone's got their own little bubble, their own mind, and it's just exciting to understand a little bit further into the inside of yourself, and I think that's one of the biggest things, is trying to understand yourself, because once you know who you are and understand who you are, anything's possible. Yeah.
Well, Jacob Spurr, thank you for coming on the show, mate.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Wow, guys, what an episode. I'm so pumped after that one because it was just so real and raw, and I'm just so grateful for Spurry for coming on the show and opening up like that. That seriously takes some nerve to do that, and to make yourself vulnerable like that, it's just such an incredible story, and I have no doubt you would have taken lots from that episode. Now, for me, one of the biggest takeaways I had from that episode was how Spurry he makes exercise a massive priority for himself. Not only did this majorly impact his physical health, but it also turned his life upside down mentally, going from feeling depressed and anxious to finding a state of peace and understanding with himself. Now, self-admittedly, he's still not where he'd like to be, and he's still working very, very hard on that, but that's probably the same with all of us, I think. And he still has his bad days, as we all do, but he doesn't dwell on them as much as what he used to, and these days he uses that to fuel his fire. Now, another big takeaway for me was how over the last 12 to 18 months, Spurry has lost around 20 kilos or so. Now, I just think that is insane, and I'm so happy for him because he looks healthy, he feels healthy, and he is literally living proof of what consistency and accountability can do. And Spurry also talked about trusting the process, and this is something I am massive on as well. He realizes that there's no such thing as overnight success. Therefore, he gets out there and puts in the work day after day, and knows that by doing so, he will see results because he trusts the process. And this corresponds with one of my favorite all-time quotes from Fearless Motivation. It goes, "I will make it. Maybe not immediately, but absolutely and definitely." So, if you learn to trust the process and enjoy the process, you will achieve your goals. So guys, if you're not already, go and follow Spurry on the socials. I'll have links to them in the show notes, and I highly recommend you watch his YouTube video where he explains his journey too. It's seriously inspirational. And while you're there, be sure to check out my new YouTube channel as well. The link for that one will also be in the show notes. Again, a big thank you to Spurry for coming on the show today. And you know what time it is. It's time to get out there, define your greatness, and be state of the art. Hey legends, thank you so much for listening to that episode, and I hope you've taken some value and inspiration from it. Now, if you could just do me one small favour, I would greatly appreciate it. Please share this episode with a friend, or maybe a family member, or whoever. Let's spread the word on how you can make yourself state of the art. Also, be sure to take a screenshot of this episode and post it on your Instagram story. Don't forget to tag the SOTA process and myself. And please, if you have time, leave me a rating on the podcast platform you use. I would really appreciate any type of support and feedback. Thanks guys.